Our Computex 2025 coverage is made possible by Corsair, Asus, Phanteks, G-Skill, Lee, Seasonic, Thermal Grizzly, Trix, Team Group, Antec, Pro Gamers Group, InWin, BitsPower, Be Quiet, Cable Mod, and Cougar.
What's going on, guys? I'm Stuart from GGF, and it is still Computex Day 2. This is our final video. I think we've got 4 done today. I'm losing my voice, but we are at the Seasonic booth here. Now, we all know Seasonic. This is their 50th anniversary this year. Now, they have done so many firsts. They've got like an achievement wall, sort of a timeline. I'll get some B-roll on. I think were the first to introduce SMT technology. They were the first to introduce the 80+ rating, first to introduce the 80+ gold, and there's so many more. Over here, we have some sort of special edition power supplies. We have a blue, a white, a red, and a black. Originally, they were just going to do the red, but then they said they really just can't have red, so they got a full suite, custom cables to match. They are all a glossy finish, and they do look really nice. I got some close-up B-roll. 50th anniversary. Of course, some people might be thinking, well, hey, why do we need like an anniversary edition PSU? It is a pretty big achievement, 50 years, especially from Seasonic. They do a lot of OEM stuff, and then they do their own engines and stuff as well, which we'll have a look at in a second. They have some new sweet Noctua PSUs I'm really interested in taking a look at. But yeah, cables there. I'll grab maybe the red one to have a look. You'll probably see a heap of fingerprints, but a very nice glossy finish, and it just looks really sweet. So if you're building a red system, a blue system, white system, or a black system, they are all there ready to go. And there's no wattage rating, but I'm assuming these will come out in a few different specs. So I just want to get that the right side. But yeah, those PSUs, something just a little bit nice to celebrate their 50th anniversary. Now, I think before we actually start looking at some PSUs, we might go back and have a look at some of this area here, sort of what Seasonic have been specializing in over the past years. So when it comes to the MOSFET design or the cooling the MOSFET design, the traditional setup normally looks like that in a PSU. Maybe not in current generation, but I remember older days, that's what it looked like in a power supply. Your MOSFETs were just sort of stuck straight onto the PCB, and that was the cooling. So Seasonic has gone down with the OptiSync, the original design, or that's what they got in phase now, and they're also bringing out the OptiSync 2.0, which is the future design which they want to implement in all of their power supplies. So what they're doing is they've moved the MOSFETs onto like a daughter board. You can see, I might actually stand these up and I'll get some B-roll. So a daughter board for extra cooling, and then the MOSFETs have a direct heatsink over the top of them. Previously, they didn't really have a heatsink onto them, it was more on the side, but now they have a direct heatsink on top of them, and they've also drilled a little hole through the heatsink, and that has thermal paste in there as well for extra cooling. So not too much on this. I'm not really an engineer in power supplies, so I don't want to spend too much, but it's good to see the different sort of revolution on the way they've designed some of the internals on the power supply. Over here we have some new units from Seasonic. So these are the Prime HPD PX 1200 watt, up to 1200, and the HPD is high power density. So we have 2 units here. You probably know straight away, this is a Noctua themed unit right here. And then of course, not everyone is going to want the brown Noctua theme. We have the standard Prime, which I'm really digging these aesthetics, the aggressive lines. And I wouldn't say it's about time, but I think it's nice that Seasonic now are starting to move forward towards that little bit of a aggressive, getting a bit of stylish with their power supplies. I'm not saying that their power supplies were bland before, they were still very nice and clean, but I do like this new design shift with this cutout on the side. Just looks nice, a few angles, and of course it's all going to have the latest technology. This one actually has 2 12-volt high power. The Noctua is probably exactly the same if I spin this around. So ETA for this, there's going to be no price yet. ETA, I think they said early next year. So still looking about 6 months away. Unfortunately, I'd really love to get these in a build at the moment. What we have in terms of size comparison, because it's going to be hard. So this isn't SFX, it's not SFX, it's more ATX, but it is slightly smaller. You don't need any different cases, anything like that. It'll fit into a normal power supply, but in terms of the actual length, just make sure I got that right, like that. So if I actually put this on top, spin it around like this, actually, I'm trying to get them exactly the same. So that's it there. So that's the difference there. So I wouldn't say a lot smaller, but considering this one up here is like a Focus 850, Focus was normally their smallest form factor before you went down to something like an SFX or an SFXL. So you can see how small this is, and this is in a 1200 watt size. So pretty sick for that. And then once again, it has a Noctua, it has a fan in there. Now behind me, you might be wondering what's going on here. Well, this is a full Noctua build. We all know that Seasonic announced the Prime Noctua Edition. That was Computex last year. That was the monster 1600 watt. That's in the system there. You might be wondering who does this case. This is Antec. I also will be doing a video covering the Antec suite as well, or their booth, wherever they are, so stay tuned for that. I think that might be tomorrow, but this is their new chassis they've come out, full Noctua theme, brown on top, brown aesthetics on the inside. If you want to go up the brown Noctua fans, this is the system for you. They've thrown in the Asus by Noctua GPU, and it just all blends in really nicely. And I think this is probably the only way I would do a Noctua theme build. I did one a little while ago, came out pretty sweet, but whenever I see Noctua fans, the beige ones in a normal black or a white case, they just really stand out. But when it is all in cohesively matching with the rest of the theme, it does look really good. And if you did a system like that, if you had like an MHX version with this, I think it would look super, super killer. Now, one last thing, I was about to finish there, but one last thing are the cables. They will come with the brown cables. So you might be thinking, well, I don't want brown cables. Or obviously, if you're going to be doing a Noctua theme, you're going to want cables to match. When I did the Noctua theme, I hit a cable mod to get a match set. But with these, you don't have to worry about getting extra cables. And I think it's that nice little touch supplying these rather than standard black cables. So what Seasonic are doing over here on their future power supplies, they want to implement more thermal monitoring, and there's actually a whole segment on here for the 12 volt high power, because you know that over the years or recently from like the 30, the 40, the 50 series, there's been melting connectors and all of that. So Seasonic can try and do as much as from their end on the unit. They can't do so much from the other end, but this power supply is quite interesting. It's very digital in terms of how it reacts with the 12 volt high power. So this one's a prototype. There's 3 12 volt high power. So the whole power supply can monitor per pin thermals, it can monitor per pin wattage and all of that. So it has some pretty good thermal monitoring in that. It's got a digital chip over here. It has some alarms put in place. So if it detects something like the thermal is getting out of range, it can ramp up the speed, which is pretty good. Then there is an internal alarm. And then it can also do things like turn off your PC, and they will future do it, so you can actually have an overlay on your system to actually give you notifications about your power supply. So it's more moving into a digital power supply. We've seen digital power supplies in the past, but they don't really give you that much statistics on the 12 volt high power. So it's pretty sweet that they're doing that. And then they also might implement things like, hey, why don't we put in like a Wi-Fi module, Bluetooth module, we can connect it to like a smart home kit, and if you're out, if your system's running, it can give you real-time reading on those connectors. It's pretty crazy how we have to go to this extent just for these high-end GPUs running the 12 volt connector, but it is something good that Seasonic are implementing ways to, I wouldn't say get around it, but help manage that device for you. So that's it, guys. Not really too much to cover with Seasonic. Obviously, it's going to be power-wise is going to be their primary focus, but all of this stuff here I didn't cover. This is what they have out at the moment. They said, hey, there's no point really showcasing everything they have. No point getting people to talk about it. Like, this is a 2200PX they've already launched, a monster unit. These are all of their focus, GX 1000, GX 850, so on. They've already got those fans, so there's no point talking about all of those. But anyway, I want to thank you guys for watching. I want to thank Seasonic for supporting my coverage, and we'll see you in the next one.